everybody, in this video we are going to talk about the original The Prodigy Keyboard, the Roland W30. This 1989 sampling workstation was the backbone of Liam Howlett's setup, both live and in the studio, and we will take a look at its archaic workflows, the ways it was used by the master himself. We will try to make some music and find out that making beats was not for the faint of heart in the 90s. Liam Howlett was an early adopter of the W30. After quitting his gig as a DJ for the hip-hop group Cut to Kill as a teenager, he not only swapped London for his hometown of Braintree, Essex, but also the turntables for a W30 right after it was brought to the market in 1989. Plenty of other gear we will talk about in a bit was added later, but the first demo tapes were put together with just the W30, creating the blueprint for the band's unique sound. The instrument itself is based on existing Roland technology, MIDI sequencing quite similar to the MC500, the 30 kHz 12-bit sampling of the S50, and a few improvements like a selection of internal bread and butter sounds Liam Howlett hated with a passion, and a resonant filter, turning the workstation into a proper synth. In addition to the aforementioned rompler sounds, W30 comes with a whopping 512 KB of RAM divided into two sampling banks, each of which can hold up to 7.2 seconds of mono audio at the maximum sample rate. There's a 15 kHz lo-fi mode as well, allowing for longer recordings. As we are talking about an 80s sampler, it doesn't come as a surprise that the storage medium for your samples, patches, sequences and songs were 720 KB DD floppies. In face of the beauty of this discs/cigarettes/party supplies holder, one needs to keep in mind that a system disc is needed. The instrument will not start without it, but Roland also offered a SCSI board for the hard discs of well-heeled producers, and it is great that Florian Schreivogel of Global DJs, thank you so much for lending me this mint condition W30, installed a floppy emulator, which makes life a lot easier. Loading samples can still be a time-consuming task though. Digital Roland user interfaces have a reputation of being quite a challenge. Minimalist front panel controls, opaque menu structure and an unhealthy dose of RTFM are to be expected. It took Liam Howlett around 4 months of isolation to learn the keyboard inside and out. Time we don't have. While the display is atypically large even by modern Roland standards, you will have to manage this riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma with 2 dials, a calculator-style numeric keypad and a few additional buttons. The W30 workflow is, of course, all about sampling. Connect a sound source, in Liam Howlett's case DJ turntables, to the single audio input on the rear panel, enter the sampling menu in the sound section of the instrument, name your sample, define the sound quality and maximum recording time, hit ready to monitor the input signal and either start recording manually or by setting a threshold for auto sampling. Great success. Memory was precious back in the day, so it is of utmost importance to truncate your samples in order to free up space for other recordings, and I have yet to fully understand the graphical waveform representation for editing and looping. These recordings can either be turned into conventional sampler instruments, and this is where we return to the music-making process of Liam Howlett, mapped across the keyboard and arranged into a readily playable 90s dance floor abomination. According to many interviews and articles, this was the approach used by the Prodigy in the early days, up until the mid-90s. Keep sequencing to a minimum and play loops and other samples from the keyboard, especially in a live context. This workflow not only adds a raw overall vibe, it might also be a testament to the W30's limitations. For those of you who grew up with DAWs, the specifications of the instrument might seem like
rookie numbers in this racket.
16 voices of polyphony, 8 patches accessible at the same time, and a grand total of 32 sampled sounds. One of the main challenges, however, is the internal sequencer. 16 tracks of 80s real-time MIDI recorder goodness with basic quantization, copy-pasting, and a list editor for micromanaging your note data. No piano rolls, no TR-style step sequencing, you actually have to play your parts, so this is where 8 years of piano lessons might have paid off for the Prodigy's mastermind. This sequencer is also capable of controlling external gear, of which Liam Howlett owned a lot over the years. It all started with a Moog Prodigy that inspired the band's name, but quite a few instruments were added to the setup to widen its sonic palette and work around the W30's quirks. The first and probably most important addition to the setup was more W30s. They were used on stage as master keyboards up until 2008, but a switch to a Cubase-based system for actual music creation was made somewhere in the mid-90s, presumably during the production of Jilted Generation. Things get a little blurry here, but I'll try to single out stuff that was actually used in studio setups centered around W30s. The pool of accessible samples was expanded by adding archaic samplers, still controlled from the W30. The most prominent upgrade, however, might be a Roland TR909, used to add punch to the beats both live and in the studio. A rich selection of classic analog sims like an SH101, Juno 106, Alpha Junos of Hoover Patch fame, TB303s and the usual Moogs aside, a humble Roland U220 is definitely worth a mention, providing the unique Prodigy strings. As you might have noticed, this workflow is completely devoid of multi-track recording, but fortunately the W30 comes with multiple outputs, making it easy to put finishing touches to a sound, ideally with an old Mackie, but we are going to use a DAW for that later. As mentioned before, W30s gradually started losing relevance in the music production and live setups of the Prodigy somewhere in the 90s, but many of the tracks produced on the original Prodigy Keyboard can still hold up today. I wanna know if we can capture some of that spirit with a modern take on a W30 setup. In addition to the lo-fi crunch of the 12-bit samples, we need some kind of 909-ish drum machine. I don't have an original TR, but I'm sure a Yomox Airbase with a Beatstep Pro will do the trick. Liam Howlett was already making fun of Roland for not releasing new analog sims even back in the 90s, but I would love to hear his opinion on the digital IRA Compact S1. Speaking of digital emulations, I'm gonna use a TB3 instead of the original 303, which conveniently already comes with internal FX for relentless distortion. nostalgia and 90s muscle memory aside, does it still make sense to incorporate a W30 in a modern setup? Let's say it might be harder and less rewarding than you think. The workflow is laborious and cryptic, and even Liam Howlett, who considered it to be an integral part of his sound, ditched it for more advanced sequencing and sampling tools as soon as the band gained international attention. It might as well be that the secret sauce to the sound of the Prodigy is the music-making genius of Liam Howlett. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, become a patron and use one of the links down below that support the channel regardless of what your gas commands you to buy.
When we're playing the set, I'm just sort of like running in between each of the keyboards.
Although I'm no stranger to digital 80s Roland UI pain, I have to admit that I underestimated the W30. The learning curve is brutal and the manual isn't always helpful. If you want to accept that challenge, there are quite a few great videos here on YouTube. First and foremost, the unparalleled expertise of Paolo of Synthmania, whose approach is surprisingly similar to what is described in various Prodigy interviews. Aspen Craft has some well-structured content as well, just don't expect it to have a positive impact on your love life, and definitely check out Thomas Matthew Evans' tutorials.